For the past almost 7 years, I have been rocking the Nintendo Switch, and it's been my main primary console, both at home and on the go. You see, I love the aspect of just being able to take this console from being on the TV and being able to take it on the go whenever, however you want, and just the actual experience of getting to take games that you could usually only play on the TV, being able to put them on this little screen and taking them on the go was the huge novelty of the Nintendo Switch when it came out. Though, as time has gone on, and like I said, the Switch has been out for nearly 7 years, the Switch is starting to age. It's starting to become a little bit outdated. I mean, it was really even outdated back in like 2020 and debatably even when it first came out. So now the main question a lot of people have been asking is, well, when is Nintendo going to release something more powerful? Well, you see, that's a question that I'd asked a lot. But an alternative I had never considered was getting a competitor to the Nintendo Switch. You see, with the Nintendo Switch's success, many other companies started to release their own products, like the Nintendo Switch. The AO Neo, like Pocket, or whatever those things are called, that's just one example of a company actually doing something like the Nintendo Switch. However, the first real company to step up and do this was actually Valve when they had released the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck came out, honestly, not too long ago, all things considered, and I remember when I first saw this device, I absolutely did not care for it. It looked bulky, the screen looked kind of blah, and I had absolutely no interest in this device whatsoever. That is until they announced the Steam Deck OLED, which was basically the same exact device, just with some upgraded specs, a better battery, and of course, a newer, bigger OLED screen. So, naturally, I actually did end up getting this as a present for Christmas, because I had expressed wanting it, and my father said, hey, that'll be your Christmas gift this year. And, well, we ordered it, and it arrived. I have it here, the Steam Deck OLED. Now, initially, I was like, I don't know how much I'm gonna really like this system, but as soon as I put it into my hands and started, like, playing around with it, I knew that this was going to be a banger. I honestly overestimated how big the system was. I thought it was going to be a lot clunkier, or feel a lot clunkier than it actually is. It fits really well in the hand, and the bigger form factor of it makes it actually a lot more comfortable than the Nintendo Switch, just because it's got a curved back. It just feels more natural to hold, especially with the thumbsticks both being bigger, but also at the top of the console. Of course, given the size and all of the hardware that's shoved into this thing, it is also naturally a lot heavier, so it is harder to play for longer periods of time, but I freaking love this thing. Let me give you guys a little bit of a tour of the Steam Deck OLED. Looking at the front, obviously you see all of the face buttons and the thumbsticks, and of course the options button at the top, and then the other button. I don't really quite know what to call that up at the top left. Now, the interesting thing about this design is that it's a lot more horizontal than other game controllers. You see, lots of game controllers, not everything is in a straight line. You have the buttons above the sticks, sometimes even the sticks can be asymmetrical. It's a very interesting setup, and it depends on the controller. But this has done something that I usually don't really see much at all, where all the buttons are just kind of horizontal to each other, and that's not really something that's been done since retro gaming with like the NES controller and the Super Nintendo controller. And obviously this is a lot more intricate than those kind of controllers, so it is really, really interesting to see that layout. But it makes sense because where your thumb lays on the controller, it makes sense to have, you know, all those buttons really, really high up. And then you have these two square panels on each side of the controller, and they act kind of like trackpads from laptops, but honestly, I really like how they feel. Initially, I wasn't quite sure about them, but given that you're only really using your thumb on them, I actually do like how they feel. I do tend to not use them all the time, but they are actually pretty good if you want to use them for any kind of real precision aiming in any kind of shooter game and all that kind of jazz. Plus, whenever you use them, there's actually a really cool vibration motor in there that actually makes it feel really, really cool and kind of satisfying when you use it. Then at the bottom, you have the Steam button, which is basically a glorified home button. It'll open up a menu that'll let you quit a game, see your Steam library, go home, all that kind of jazz. And then you have the options button on the right there that'll let you do things like adjust the brightness slider, see things like battery percentage, all that. Moving to the top, we have, of course, the volume rockers, a headphone jack, power button, and USB-C charging port. And then, of course, we also have the bumpers and the triggers, as well as a small little fan for ventilation. And at the bottom, we have a micro SD card slot where, of course, you can enter, a micro SD card. The initial thing I was a little bit skeptical about with this device is that the charging port is on the top of the console as opposed to on the bottom. Because on the Nintendo Switch, the charging port is on the bottom, which is useful for docking. Now, the Steam Deck does have a dock, but I didn't get it and I don't really care about it because of the fact that if I wanted to play my Steam games on a bigger screen, I would just play it on my computer. But given that's on the top, it's actually kind of advantageous because the cord isn't sticking out from the bottom. If you're playing like this, the cord isn't pressing against you. It's actually going up like a normal game controller. It's actually a pretty smart design, so long as you're not using it in docked mode. If you are using it in docked mode, I do believe there's like a little cable that you have to plug in into it whenever you want to use it in dock mode. And then if you look at the back of the console, there are actually 4 back buttons, being L4, L5, R4, and R5, and they act as programmable buttons that you can just kind of do what you want with. If you want something that's normally mapped to one of the face buttons to be on one of those back buttons, you can do that. So overall, there's a lot of different control options in this machine, and it's actually really, really cool. Speaking of lots of options, now, of course, you can download your whole Steam library on this. Now, some games are unsupported, some games are still being tested, and I really hope that Steam do get to a point where every game from the Steam library will be able to run effortlessly on the Steam Deck. But something you can also do is run this thing in desktop mode and download desktop applications, which means you can emulate on it, which was something that tickled my fancy because something you can't really do much of on the Nintendo Switch is play GameCube games, and Dolphin Emulator is something you can get for this thing, and it runs like a charm. So I'll show you GameCube games running on this thing in a little bit, but one thing I really love, particularly with Dolphin, is that even though it's something you have to download using the desktop mode on this thing, you can actually program it so that you can access just that specific application right from the Steam Deck's home menu, meaning that you can access Dolphin without even going into the desktop mode. You just gotta program Dolphin to be in your Steam library, which I'm sure there's loads of tutorials of people showing you how to do that, and it's honestly such a cool thing. It makes it so easy to just access your GameCube library right then and there and just start playing. So when you buy a Steam Deck, whether it be the OLED version or the original model, it'll come with the Steam Deck itself, a charging cord, as well as a carrying case, which is really freaking nice because I always hate carrying, my Switch around with no carrying case, even though now I have one. So the fact that this comes with one is just absolutely spectacular. So overall, you guys, I really do like this console, and now we're going to get into the part that you've probably been waiting for. I'm going to show you guys some games running on the Steam Deck. I actually wrote all this down in a notebook because I don't remember all the games that I wanted to show off, and I actually have a total of 11 games that I want to show off. There are 3 that are completely supported on Steam. You can buy them, download them, and they will work effortlessly. There are 2 that are playable, meaning that you can completely play them on the Steam Deck and be fine, but there's a couple things about them, like warnings, that Steam wants you to know, and they might not run completely perfectly. Then I'm actually also going to try out 2 games that are considered unsupported, meaning that they aren't actually optimized for the Steam Deck. But there are ways to play them, and I want to see if I can get them running. Then I'm going to show you some GameCube games, and I'm going to show you 4 of those. So, the supported Steam games I'm going to show you are Left 4 Dead 2, Spider SquarePants with the Cosmic Shake, and The Devil in Me. All of these games are considered fully supported, and one game is old, one game is simple, and one game is new and a little more intricate. So I'm excited to show you guys how all those kinds of games run on the Steam Deck. Then, for the games that are considered playable, I'm going to be playing Life is Strange Remastered, as well as Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. Then, for the unplayable games, I'm going to be trying out The Quarry, as well as Little Hope. So those games you apparently are unsupported on the Steam Deck, but I have heard that you actually can at least play them. They just might not run as optimally as you might want them, but we'll see more about them when I get to playing them. Then, the 4 GameCube games I'm going to play for you guys are, of course, my favorites, being Luigi's Mansion, Mario Party 6, SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom, the original, as well as Mario Kart Double Dash. So, all these are going to be played right here for you guys. I'm going to give a little bit of commentary, so let's get right on into playing all of these games. Here we start off with Left 4 Dead 2. Now, Left 4 Dead 2 runs honestly pretty perfectly. I want to apologize for my poor performance because of the fact that I'm kind of playing at a weird angle, and that goes for all of these games, to be honest. But Left 4 Dead 2 runs pretty well. There's the occasional stutter that you might see in the gameplay, where, a frame kind of just stops for a second and then re-goes, but other than that, the game actually runs pretty dang smoothly. And also, yes, I did decide to start all the way to the very end of the recording because, well, I wanted to. Next up, we have SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake. Now, especially comparing to the Nintendo Switch version of the game, this game is butter smooth compared to that. No frame rate issues, running smooth as can be, and it just looks so good. And the loading times, I don't really think I show any loading times here, but they are so much better than the Nintendo Switch version as well. It's honestly really good.
If she says bringing her jelly will help get our friends back, then bring her jelly we shall.
Moving on to The Devil in Me. Now, The Devil in Me obviously is the most powerful of these 3. It's the newest, it's the biggest. And it runs without a hitch. It runs perfectly fine, no matter, automatically, no matter like the setting, the Steam Deck gives you, runs perfectly fine. And even with the Keep Calm segments, which I'm going to show you a little bit of here, it runs perfectly smoothly. Usually if the frame rate's a little bit iffy, I would have a lot more trouble with the Keep Calm segments, but it works perfectly fine. No issues whatsoever. Next up, we have Life is Strange Remastered. Now we're going obviously into the playable category where it's a little more iffy, but runs smoothly without a hitch. Now, here is the specific warning for this game. Particularly has to do with obviously the keyboard coming up, and there's not much in terms of performance that this game struggles with, but again, compared to the Switch version of this game, it runs so much better. It runs night and day, without a doubt, better on the Steam Deck, obviously, because it's more powerful. But yeah, Life is Strange Remastered, running on the Steam Deck, looks really good.
You see the dilemma?
I know, Mr. Jefferson. Excuse me, Mr. Jefferson, can I talk to you for a moment? Yes. Excuse you.
No, Victoria. Excuse us. I'd never let one of photography's future stars avoid handing in her picture.
Next up is Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. It says this game is playable because of these reasons, but honestly, it runs perfectly fine. Don't listen to it. Like, even though it says, like, caution, it's just playable, the game runs perfectly fine. There's no issues with it whatsoever. Like, it's completely perfectly fine. I'm going to show you multiple levels to show that no matter what level you play, no matter where in the game you are, it's perfectly fine. Don't worry about it.
You just met the Sponginator.
Now into the unsupported category here, we are going to start off with The Quarry. Now this is the one game I did notice issues with. This one definitely was not smooth. I can see why this one is, called unsupported. Really, it's just not optimized graphically or like performance-wise for the Steam Deck. I noticed that there is a lot of frame skipping. It was just not great. Definitely playable, but still not optimal. If you've played the Nintendo Switch versions of like Man of Madonna, Little Hope, performance-wise, it's about similar to those.
but yeah, it's still not, still not ideal.
Just another guy who didn't want to admit he was lost.
Well, just another guy who's got a whole day named after him, so put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Oh my god. Okay, just get us to camp already before I roll my eyes out of my head, please.
Working on it. I'm working on it.
The next unplayable game was Little Hope. Now, this game, since it's unsupported, honestly, runs perfectly fine on the Steam Deck. No issues, no frame drops, no nothing. So I think this game is one that they're going to have to switch to working sometimes. Now, honestly, I haven't tried out Man of Medan or House of Ashes yet, but I'm going to kind of assume it's going to be the same kind of deal for those. And, of course, the Keep Calm segments work perfectly fine. No issues there.
The kitchen's on fire!
Are you fucking serious?
Megan?
Now to the GameCube emulation, we're going to start off with Luigi's Mansion. Now, obviously, since all those Steam games, minus The Quarry, worked well, there's really not going to be any issues with these GameCube games, but I do want to show you so you can see how they look and how they run on the Steam Deck. Now, I'm playing at 2 times quality, being 720p, and obviously, it looks really good. Any more than that, you might start to have issues depending on the game. Luigi's Mansion, being that it's a very simple game, you might not have issues if you upscale it a little bit more, but I think 720p is perfectly fine here. So, yeah, that's Luigi's Mansion. Mario Party 6, same kind of deal, same settings. Maybe if you download Dolphin, it'll automatically have these settings there for you. You'll just have to swap the controls because for some reason the Dolphin, it set it up so that X is B and B is X. So you might have to tinker with the controls a little bit. But graphic settings, these are the default ones. And as you can see, Mario Party 6 running perfectly fine. Same with the original Battle for Bikini Bottom, runs fine, runs perfectly, no issues, no hiccups, easy enough. That's, that's that. And then, of course, Mario Kart Double Dash. I did 2 tracks just to make sure, it doesn't matter what track you're playing, it runs fine. I did Baby Park and I did Waluigi Stadium. And honestly, guys, it runs without a hitch. Mario Kart Double Dash, everyone loves this one. It looks great, it runs great, no complaints from me.
So there you have it, guys. That is the Steam Deck. Have I sold you on it? Do you want to give it a shot? Do you want to emulate GameCube games and play them wherever you want? Let me know down in the comments down below. If there's any games that I didn't show today that you're kind of curious about, let me know, and maybe I'll do a second follow-up video to this playing those. Whether they be other games on Steam that I haven't played, or GameCube games that you want to know, maybe they run a little bit weirdly on some PCs and you want to know if it runs well on the Steam Deck, let me know, and I'll try to give it a shot. Just let me know down in the comments down below. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff down below. And of course, tickle that notification bell so that you're notified of when I upload videos. And until next time, you guys, I'll see you in the next video.